Hello and welcome to the Downsized Dish. My name is Laraine Durham, and this is our weekly platform where we chat with folks and learn about journey with GLP-1 medications. Today, we're talking to Michelle, who just starting her weight loss journey. It's great to have you here, Michelle. Hi, how are you?
I'm great. It's good to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Michelle, tell us a little bit about yourself to start off.
My husband and I live here in the Waco, Texas area. We just recently talked my daughter into taking our big house out front and letting us build a tiny house out back. Fortunate to have a 2.5 acre lot. And she was foolish enough to take me up on it. So now she has become the official matriarch of the family to host all the big family soirees. And I'm going to come and go as I please now. But the truth of the matter is, I have much better access to my grandchildren, which segues into what started me on this journey.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
There was an unfortunate event where I lost another family member younger than me, and that was quite moving and motivating towards a healthier lifestyle, which I'm already known as the safety mom, I'm not the soccer mom, I'm the security mom, I'm the health nut, and I'll take those badges. But he was quite young, and I was very moved by that entire situation. And around that same time, I was in the middle of doing crafts with my granddaughter, who was 8 at the time. She's now 9. And she just stopped and looked at me and she said, "Grandma, you're going to be a grandma to my kids, right?" Of course, I immediately launched into explaining to her that her mom will be grandma and I'd be great grandma. Well, she interrupted me. "Yeah, I know, Graham. You'll be great grandma and she'll be the grandma. But what I mean is, you're going to teach them to play the piano and how to do art and singing and play games and sewing." And I immediately did the math in my head of what that would look like, building in she's at least going to get her master's degree before she gets married and has kids. And but I thought, darn, I want to be able to get down on the ground and like I am now and be able to play and move and not have it be painful. And around that same time, my 60th birthday popped up, and I don't know. I missed the email because I sure didn't confirm that. I was not happy about that at all. And it's just, I got to tell you, it's just completely incongruent with what my brain is telling me, which is why my favorite cup says, my mind thinks I'm 25, my body thinks I'm an idiot. And so, but yeah, it crept up on me and I'm not ready for it. And I'm definitely not going to just give in to it. I mean, it's just a number, and there's nothing says I got to break out the walker. And I'm okay with the gray hair. I'm liking the gray hair. Definitely cut back on the hair salon costs, but yeah, everything else, I'm not ready for it. So I decided then I was going to make some big changes.
Okay. So tell us about those big changes you wanted to make.
My case may be a little more unusual or niche compared to others in that the doctor I went to see is a functional medicine doctor. And so I'm actually doing hormone replacement therapy, as well as Mounjaro.
Okay.
I'm looking for a little more energy, a little more pep, appetite suppressants, and also I'm hoping for the side effect of decreasing my online shopping. I've got the most spoiled grandchildren in the world, much to my husband's chagrin. So I'm looking for
The whole
all
package.
racks. Yes,
All right.
the whole package.
Yeah, I have heard tales of online shopping decreases. It seems like anything that people are really addicted to, food, alcohol, for me, it was wine, online shopping, all those things seem to
Settle down.
get tampered down. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, become less of an emphasis in your life, which I'm really hoping for.
Yeah. Tell me about the HRT with the Mounjaro. Did you just start the HRT?
All of it yesterday. I had my
Oh,
first appointment yesterday at 2,
okay.
and she prescribed me. I have to confess, I tried the pellets before, but I'm real good about taking my vitamins and supplements and all that. And evidently, your omega 3s can thin your blood. And the 2 times that I did the pellets, I had to go back the next day to have the little minor tiny incision stitched up because it would
Mm.
not stop bleeding.
Oh,
And it was also with the pellets, what I found did not work for me is once that dose is in there, you got to wait for it to wear off.
huh.
And so I liked the idea of this doctor being able to monitor my levels with, if I need to, weekly, because weekly blood work, but I'm doing shots instead of the pellets.
Okay.
So I'm doing that along with an estrogen cream and some progesterone tablets. So I'm completely medication free, which I understand is quite a feat at 60, but I don't take any blood pressure medication, nothing like that. But I'm happy to take these ones. And I got to tell you, I took the first progesterone last night and slept
Mhm.
like a baby. I unfortunately, I wish I did. I don't indulge in wine or anything like that. I just never
Mhm.
developed a taste for it. But that progesterone, boy, does it help you sleep. So I'm looking forward to sleeping well and being more active once the weight starts coming off because just being 35 pounds overweight, which is what I am, I'm 5'2", and right now I sit at 165. And so when I say 35 pounds overweight, I'm leaning to the high end of what's normal for a woman my age at 62, at
Yeah.
60s. But I feel it. I feel it in my joints. It's just uncomfortable. And to kind of dovetail with the HRT, it even affects my husband and I's sex life. And that's another thing I'm not ready to give up. So I'm only 60. I'm not dead.
Right. Absolutely.
So
Um,
I'm hoping both will work together.
yeah, I've heard some podcasters talk about the HRT, uh, the more specifically the patch and the progesterone together with the GLP-1 medication. So personally, I've got the patch and the progesterone pill, and but the hot flashes just aren't stopping for me. So I don't know if I need to. Did you ever have hot flashes or anything like
Oh,
that?
yeah. So I'm a retired flight attendant. And
Oh,
when we fly internationally, I'm almost ashamed to admit it, but we get our own bunks to go and lay down in on those
oh,
international flights.
huh?
It's five-star comfort compared to what the rest of the airplane is enduring during that flight.
Yeah,
And it is sacred. It is a big no to get up in the middle of that crew rest to go to the bathroom or just make noise.
yeah.
And I was still flying when I went through menopause, and the hot flashes were brutal. And I wish I had known then what I now know about HRT. I was terrified of it back then and refused to take anything. That was a mistake, I realize now. But I can tell you, 10 years past menopause, it has definitely gotten much better. But I can also tell you when my weight's up, the hot flashes are worse. They come back and are more frequent. But when my weight is down, they're less frequent and less intense as well. So,
Interesting. I read something that said that your fat holds onto the hormones, and a lot of times when you release them, then I something along those lines. But that makes sense for me. I've only had the hot flashes. Like this menopause has only started since I've been on the compounded tirzepatide. So I'm just trying to. I don't know. I'm asking everyone I
navigate,
know. Yeah,
yeah,
I'm
navigate the
asking.
whitewater rapids. Yes,
Yeah,
I know.
for sure, for sure. So you took your first Mounjaro shot yesterday?
Yes, ma'am. They gave it to me in the office and sent me home with 3 pre-filled needles already.
Okay. Okay.
And my husband, who's a bit squeamish and things of that nature, today when I gave myself my first testosterone shot, he was like, "That's it? I was like, "That's it." And no different than the needle yesterday. He's gonna be making an appointment for himself because he's about 40 pounds overweight,
Oh,
and
okay.
unfortunately, he carries it all in his gut. And the most dangerous place that you can carry that kind of weight. And
Yeah.
he just can't. He went away for 10 days to spend time with his parents because his sister's out of town. They live out West Texas.
Mm,
And my in laws are in their mid 80s.
mm.
They're in great health for being in their mid 80s. My mother in law is a full time caregiver to my father in law, who's in early stage dementia. But that's no different. That's no change for her. She's a caregiver. Probably the greatest compliment my stepson ever gave me was, "You're just like me, Ma." So, yeah, that was a great compliment. But he was out there just for backup, just in case, and to spend some time with his dad, took his 2 boys, and came home 10 pounds heavier with the intention of losing 2 or 3 pounds. Went to the
Oh, no.
gym 5 mornings in a row with his son who's trying to bulk out right now, but somehow managed to come home 10 pounds heavier. I
Meemaw
think
Kirkman.
yeah, so I think maybe he's gotten on the bandwagon because he was pretty disappointed with that end result,
Yeah.
and which I took advantage of and said, "See, I am good for you because you wouldn't have gained that weight if I was with you." Because I would have nagged him not to eat that second plate of foods.
Yeah.
Yes.
then you guys can do it together and make the high protein meals and the healthy things together. So encourage one another, and hopefully that'll work for both of you.
And that's why you and Christopher have inspired me, and why I reached out to you to begin with is because we're in similar demographics
Yeah.
and in similar lifestyle phases in our life. And so I was hoping to, my husband's always very resistant to new ideas, but I've been watching you around him so that he can just by osmosis absorb.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I've been doing every diet under the sun for the past 21 years. Christopher and I have been married, is it 21 years, Christopher? Yeah, I forget, but 21 years. And it's only, I think he did Weight Watchers once. He went to one meeting with me before we got married 21 years ago and has done no other diet with me in the time since. And so when I presented him with this idea about these weight loss shots that I wanted to do, he said, that too. I'm ready to do that too. And I was thrilled because he's
Yeah.
never really said that before. So yeah, and he's the cook in our family. So he cooks dinner and I don't really cook anything. I don't do any of that. If I can open it and eat it, that's what I usually do for other meals. But it's been really great having him
Be on board with
doing
it.
this. Yeah, being on board with it. Yeah, because there were maybe a few times in the past when I'd come home from the gym and there'd be homemade cinnamon rolls waiting for me, something like that. So it's much easier. So yeah, hopefully you guys can do that too. Just talking about like lifestyle changes. Are you? Is there anything you're planning to do differently now that you've started the Mounjaro?
Recently, I bought myself one of those walking treadmills that
Okay.
typically people like my husband, who does work from home and has a desk that he would stick under his desk. Well, I
Hmm.
bought it and put it in our tiny house living room because it collapses really nice and thin and convenient. And I slide it right between the arm of the couch and the dog kennel. And when I'm not using it, but I've committed to using it when I'm doing, I get up in the morning, I have my Zen hour in the morning where I have my first half to cup of coffee in the morning and I watch the Weather Channel. And then I peruse who's got the best YouTube option headline for the morning. But so I've been walking on that instead of sitting and drinking my coffee. And I've also been wearing a weighted vest and
Oh my.
rucking. I've, like you, I've been physically fit in the past and I've always been conscious and aware of it. Three times in my life, I've had six-pack abs. One of them was when I left Army basic training. And so
Okay.
when I heard the idea of rucking, it made total sense to me. And the fact that it's this nice, comfortable nylon vest that I can just put on. And I've started wearing it throughout the day when I'm just doing regular work. And I know it's working because it's making me sore.
How many
I feel
pounds?
like mine's only 12 pounds. They go up to 60. So,
Oh,
yeah. But I'm doing those as well as wrist ones and ankle ones, especially when, like I said, I'm walking on the treadmill. And it's definitely, I'm feeling a difference. And that's something easy and I literally forget I have it on, especially when I go to stick my hand in a bucket of soapy water when I'm outside working on something. I'm like, oh, now it's going to be drippy wet. But yeah, so that's an easy transition. And like I said, I've always been health conscious. So it's not really going to change anything as far as my dietary, with the exception of, and again, this kind of goes along with the online shopping thing, is the food noise. And having the grandkids around, I'm constantly thinking about, because I am caregiver for them when my daughter works. She does
mhm.
12-hour shifts at the hospital. And
Wow.
so I'm her backup. And so I'm always thinking about cooking and feeding them. And then my husband, he's always got a voracious appetite. But I'm hoping the food noise for myself will lessen,
Yeah.
and the sugar cravings, because the sugar cravings are my downfall. I can eat a beautiful, healthy meal, and 10, 15 minutes after I've had this big, glorious salad that I grew myself
Oh, wow.
with a homemade sauce on it, is I get these sugar cravings. And I've always been pretty good about not going overboard with it, but I can't help but think if I could just cut that out completely,
Yeah.
because we now know sugar is poison. This is what I tell my grandkids. Okay, if you want that Kit Kat bar, you can have that whole bar of poison. You go right ahead and help yourself. And my daughter's like, Mom, you're going to give them a complex. I'm like, yes, I'm hoping to. I don't want them to have to figure this out when they're an adult. I want them to figure it
Yeah.
out now. So
Well,
Yes.
it's good that
So,
you can present them with some healthier options. Summertime, so lots of good fruits around.
oh
And
yeah,
and
we've always got watermelon cut up on the counter, and they come down and raid my refrigerator. And that's one thing that hasn't changed since my children were little is they could always have fruit and vegetables, whatever that was, before any meal. It wasn't, oh, you're going to ruin your dinner. No, please
right.
help yourself. And so I always keep overstocked with fruits and stuff. And so they'll come down. I've got my great granddaughter here right now as well. And so she came down the other day and was stealing grapes. And I'm like, just take the whole bag. I can take the whole bag. I said, yes, ma'am, you can. Girl.
Yeah, my
But
daughter asked me for grapes the other day at the store, and I was like, "Yeah, of course." And she's like, they're in like a box. Can we get the whole?" I'm like, "Yes, yes." But
yes, please.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. That kind of sugar I don't mind. So, but it's the cinnamon rolls that get me. And the fact that I am a fantastic baker and my daughter is a fantastic baker. And I've now taught my granddaughter, she makes a mean homemade pie and
oh
she's
no,
9 years old. Yeah. I almost wish I hadn't.
I think I'm sure she'll treasure those memories of
For
making
sure.
pies with you, and I think that's great. And just because we bake, or I think I always just wanted to bake things so I could eat them. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
Wanted to
Pies and brownies. Those are my yes. Yes.
chocolate cookies. Yeah, let's mix the
Yes.
batter and let me eat cookie
It's
dough and go
birthday,
on.
let's make chocolate chip cookies, yes,
Yeah.
oh, yes,
Well,
yeah,
and now I find, and hopefully you'll find as you get further along, that I can have one cookie, or
cookie.
I can have one piece of pie or part of a piece of pie, and then I'm like, oh, that's good. That's enough.
Yep,
Before I never, if you'd have told me I could do that before, I would not have believed you, because I was sweets are my downfall, especially like carby, sugary, like donuts, cookies, and cakes and stuff like
oh,
that.
yes,
But I
ice
find,
cream, don't forget
yeah.
ice cream.
Oh my god. Oh, we just bought a Ninja Creamy. You know what?
Yes, I do.
So we've been making it with the protein powder and Fairlife milk, which has extra protein in it. And my daughter threw in like strawberries the other day, and it you freeze it and it whips it into this awesome ice cream like concoction. So I think we're gonna have to do a whole like episode just on the
Yeah,
Ninja Creamy.
I just recently saw someone do that, he's a German guy, and he used that to make almost like a creamy sorbet. My
Yeah.
mouth was watering, and I thought, "Give me a couple months to get used to not having it so that it's a
Yeah.
treat," which I can tell you from experience, I've been 100% off of sugar, even fruits, just vegetables and meat, and, one of the reasons why I used to skimp on fruit was I used to live in California, which is the fruit basket of the United States, and
Mhm.
you drive down any road and you can stop at any roadside stand and pick up
Yeah.
fresh whatever, and the difference between that and what we get in the produce department is night and day, and
Sure.
I was spoiled on that fresh, fully sugared fruits, and but after I cut out all the sugar, I could then again eat the produce from the grocery store. It was sweet enough because I didn't
Mhm.
typically have sugar, so I'm
Mhm.
looking forward to getting back to that because I do think we need some fruit in our diet, but I just want it to be less of a labor, and, you know, you mentioned about not being able to believe you could just be satisfied with one cookie. I would make the apple pie. Apple pie is probably the pinnacle of my favorite, and I make what's called a mile high apple pie. It's a
Mhm.
dome, and my crust is beautiful and perfect. My grandmother taught me to make my crust, and the secret, by the way, is cold 7 Up. It's water, but I would make that apple pie, and then I wouldn't eat food for 2 days because I knew I was gonna eat nothing but apple pie until that
Yeah.
apple pie was gone, and
Yeah.
I would have it with cream and milk, in a bowl with sugar on it for breakfast, and then in the evening, I'd have it with a big scoop of ice cream, and I would pick at the apples all day long, and to compensate the calories, I just wouldn't eat regular food all day long. I don't
Yeah.
wanna do that anymore, but
Right.
it would sit on the counter and call to me.
That's the food
So,
noise. Yeah,
yeah.
that's the food noise. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and it's funny how in the past I've said, if I'm going to eat this, then I won't eat this, or if I'm, oh, like you make these
Constantly negotiating.
little bargains with yourself, and
Yeah.
you never win.
No,
You
no,
never
obviously. Oh, yeah. So,
yeah.
yeah, it's a losing battle, and the food industry sets us up for failure along with Big Farm. And I don't like to get into the whole conspiracy theory things. Some of it is just so telltale. And as a gardener, as a farmer, my husband and I, before we bought this property, we did own a farm, a little 10-acre farm.
Aw.
And
Mhm.
I grew everything, canned everything. We even hunted deer on our property. I would can the meat. So that all you had to do was pour it in a pot with a few vegetables. And I still have a lot of that stock and plan on getting back to that. But my point being, the vegetables that we grow today, that are grown for us today, are grown in depleted soils. So, how can you anticipate the nutritional value of that plant to be what the scientists say it's supposed to be when the soil's not? And then when you factor in the pesticides and all the chemicals, and, like greenhouse tomatoes are green and they're sprayed with a chemical, they're gassed so that they turn red, but they have not reached the peak of ripeness, which is why a lot of my fruit, especially fruit I cook with, I get out of the frozen section because it is picked at the peak of ripeness and flash frozen. But yeah, so the nutrients that we're supposed to be getting from our food, we're not getting. And so many of us are so busy. My daughter, she works, and I hate that for her, but she seems to love that for her. But so she's always busy and working 12-hour shifts at a hospital. Her first day off is her first day of recovery. It's not a day off. And so she's always chasing her tail. And even though she's fortunate to have a husband who picks up the slack, it's so easy to just stop and pick something up at the drive-through on the way home from work, or Uber Eats something. And
DoorDash. Oh, yeah.
yes, and all of that food is not food. It's an addiction is what it is. And there are scientists in the food industry who, I mean, their job is to find that bliss point so that we not only enjoy it, want to buy it more, but that we want to eat it more. And there's
R
no nutritional value in it.
Yeah, I always say, well, it just lights up everything in my brain, like, the salty, sweet like, I always say Doritos. My brain just goes, "Bing, bing." It's
Yeah.
and it's not a real food. Um, yeah. I wish I could do some gardening here because I certainly hear what you're saying about the vegetables, so it's I guess we can go to our maybe our local farmers markets and scout those out for some better options.
It definitely helps. We've got a lot of things stacked against us. And I love the analogy of, if you go back and look at pictures of the beach, people on the beach in the 70s, the
Mhm.
rare obese person stood out on the beach. And
Yeah.
now it's an equal smattering of both. And the people who are thin are typically younger and just haven't gut fat yet, but they're going to.
Yeah. With
And
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
because of our food industry. And
Yeah.
it's crazy. So
For sure. So, well, hopefully we can I think these GLP-1 medications are really gonna change the way people think about food, well, the way people act around food. I think hopefully we'll have more high protein things coming. Hopefully the packaged foods industry will take heed of some of this stuff. I see all that coming. Let me shift gears a little bit and ask you, are you prepared for any side effects? Have you heard about side effects that you might be worried about?
I am. And as someone, so I've been pregnant 5 times, and I can tell you that I conceived, got out of bed, and threw up. And then 9 months later, I gave birth and I threw up until the day after and every day in between. So
Oh,
the,
no.
the idea of being nauseous and vomiting doesn't really scare me. However, I do have a lot of tactics like ginger and Tums, things like that. I won't
Yeah.
be deterred by that. I'm a little concerned if my husband experiences it, if he'll bail on me, but myself, I'm not deterred by that. And I do struggle with IBS, which when I'm eating a mostly protein, plant-based diet, I eat a lot of steak, a lot of eggs. I try not to eat too much cheese, but so I'm used to a lot of bowel disruption. But I find that I can balance it because in spite of all the red meat I eat, I'm continually anemic. So I take an iron
Mm,
supplement from the
mhm.
doctor. And so I'll take my iron for a couple days when my bowels get really loose and bothersome. And then if I start to feel like I'm getting constipated from the iron, then I kick in my probiotics, which helps loosen me back up again. And so I have found a nice balance between the two.
You got it all
Um,
down.
yes,
That's
yes,
good. So you're ready. You're ready.
e- exactly.
Yeah. Gosh, I could not imagine waking up and throwing up every day and for 5 pregnancies. That's a lot.
And I can tell you that's one of the things that is upset me, frustrated me, gotten my attention the most is the fact that I weigh 165 pounds. The most I ever weighed with any of my pregnancies was 142. And that was after dropping to 118 because I was so sick. So the
Yeah.
fact that I'm bigger now than I ever was 9 months pregnant with any of my 5 pregnancies is just mind boggling to me.
Yeah.
And
I remember the first time I was pregnant, I was at the doctor's office and I was sitting on this bench, and this pregnant lady goes up and weighs, like, on one of those little scales where they deep, 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 deep
oh,
over,
yeah, yeah.
and they and she was obviously pregnant, like 8 or 9 months pregnant, and I think her weight, I remember this so clearly, was about 150 pounds, and I was 20 pounds over that, and had just found out I was pregnant. Right. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I thought when you got pregnant, you could gain as much weight as you wanted, and you were pregnant, so you could eat all this stuff." And no, that's not.
Which unfortunately, some women do that. They do think they can just, and then wonder why they can't lose the weight afterwards.
Yeah.
And because here's a clue, babies take a lot of time, and that time doesn't require you going places and doing things. It's sitting and holding them and sitting and changing them. And yeah, it's quite the eye opener afterwards. But yeah, it's been frustrating to me that my weight has gotten, and I know it's got a lot to do with my hormones. It's definitely got to do with my diet. According they did my numbers yesterday, and to maintain the weight that I'm at, I'm eating 2,800 calories a day. And I think I look at my food journal and I'm like, it it's got to be my portions, it's got to be the dairy. I use heavy cream in my coffee, and even though I only have 1 cup, I'm probably drinking 300
Wow.
calories in the morning just with the heavy cream.
Yeah, yeah.
That was an eye opener too.
It'll be interesting as you go through through the weeks how things might not appeal to you anymore. Some people report, like, not wanting to drink coffee at all, which I find odd. But, yeah, and I put Premier Protein shake in my coffee instead of creamer, because I was measuring out that 2 tablespoons of creamer like Weight Watchers always told
Yeah.
me to do, and tracking it on my
Yeah.
journal or whatever, and now I'm just like, "Oh, third of a protein shake, that's 10 grams of protein." Yeah, moving
Well,
on, but
that's something else I did, talk about lifestyle changes. I put a notebook on my counter along with the scale and my tablespoons, teaspoons, so that I can be very deliberate, at least for the next few weeks, if not the next few months,
yeah,
just to be very conscious and aware of what I'm doing and exactly what I'm putting into my mouth and how much I'm putting in my mouth. And that's the other thing is I've never been a big fan of the protein shakes and stuff. So I've been working with some different concoctions and blends to figure out something that, because I know, God willing, if it works for me, there'll be days when I don't have an appetite and
yeah.
that I'm going to need to eat. I'm going to need to have that protein. So I'm trying to find something that'll be semi palatable. And I'm already coaching myself. Just use it to take your vitamins and your supplements because you can just gulp it down then just to get in your stomach. But just trying to set myself up for success.
It sounds like you're on your way, so we'll have to do a follow-up with you in a few months to see your progress, so we can report
Definitely.
back in. Yeah,
And
awesome.
again, I appreciate you and Christopher so much because you've been, for me on this side of the table, you've been
Yeah,
a big influence and educational, which is everything I do. It's got to be science based, fact based. And I did all the science, all the hard science behind it. Then I wanted to see what the real people were experiencing. I've got a son who's a scientist, and obviously I trust him and I'm proud of him, his integrity. But I've come to be a little suspicious about regular science. And so I needed to do a deeper dive into the real
yeah,
people. And so, again, I really
yeah.
appreciate what you and Christopher are doing.
Thanks, yeah, we're just 2 real people living in North Carolina that and Christopher loves the news, so he loves the news stories, he loves reporting on all the really science techie pieces, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I just want to know, does it work? What do I need to do?
Yeah.
So work a good balance that way. So
And
thank you.
my husband and I would be the opposite in that regard. He's just tell me what I got to do. Just tell
Yeah.
me what I got to do. But yeah, it's been really good. One more thing on the side effects. One of the reasons why I appreciate you and Christopher is, like I said, our demographics are very similar, but figured if we wind up growing that second head and they put us into our own little segregated community, we can be good friends.
We can be buddies. Yeah.
We'll be skinny two-headed buddies. So
Yep. Or when the zombies come, you'll be able to grow food and so
that's
that'll be
great.
your
I'm ready for the apocalypse. I'm ready. That's
stuff and that'll be ready to go. We're all ready. Yeah,
that's
I've watched too much Walking Dead. I think it's
yeah,
my
you and me both.
yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you, Michelle. It's been so nice talking with you today. And I look forward to hearing about your journey and how much, weight you're going to lose. So that's all very exciting. And it was great having you today on the Downsized Dish. If anyone out there would like to be on and talk about your weight loss journey with me, send me an email at ldurham@folio28.com and we'll get you signed up to be on the Downsized Dish. Be sure to check out our live episodes every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be going live to take questions from our viewers and to see just what's going on with you guys out there. So please be sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And that's it. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked this episode. Thank you. And thanks for watching The Downsized Dish. I'm Laraine Durham. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye, all.